My dad didn't just call me a disappointment. Nah, he practically announced it like a damn campaign slogan, right there in front of a room full of polished shoes and overpriced cologne. And the craziest part? I didn't even twitch. I'd rehearsed that sting so many times in my head that it felt almost practiced. Like he read lines from a script he'd written years ago. But that night, something inside me didn't snap with anger. It snapped with clarity, like a cracked mirror finally reflecting the truth back at you. You can only be treated like background noise for so long before you start asking yourself, yo, am I even here? Or am I just a ghost these people pretend they don't see? Before I dive any deeper, before I spill the rest of this mess for you to pick apart, I want to know you're actually here with me. Drop a listening in the comments, or tell me what city you're checking in from. I swear, hearing those little echoes from strangers keeps my story from feeling like it's just dissolving into the air. Anyway, here's where it all started. My name's Lucas Harrington, not Manning anymore, and I'm 33, a financial strategist in New York who somehow found himself back in the suburban sprawl outside Philly. Not because I was homesick. Not because I suddenly missed the smell of lemon-finished hardwood floors and the sound of my dad's judgment praying over the house like incense. No. I came back for one reason, an envelope that had been riding shotgun in my coat pocket for 3 straight months. And it wasn't some Hallmark card or birthday invite. Oh no. This thing had weight, dense, heavy, like the kind of truth you're low-key scared to touch. It was my father's birthday, Victor Harrington, real estate mogul, king of polished facades, and a man who measured affection in assets, not hugs. His parties weren't even parties. They were power exhibitions. Rooms full of stiff suits, fake laughs, and people who probably practiced smiling in the mirror before arriving. I wasn't there for the cake or the champagne or the stale performance of family unity. I wasn't even there to play dutiful son. I came because the envelope against my ribs had turned into a damn heartbeat. And somewhere inside, it might hold the answer to a question I never wanted to ask but could no longer avoid. Everyone had a defined place in that picture-perfect Harrington dynasty. Everyone except me. And that night, I was about to find out exactly why. The Harrington dining room looked like a magazine spread the night everything shifted. Long table dressed in white linen, chandeliers dripping light like melted gold, the whole 9 yards. Every chair was filled with people who swore they knew my family, yet somehow never noticed I existed. Except maybe as a shadow. At the head of the table sat Grant, my older brother, broad-shouldered, camera-ready, the kind of guy who walked into a room and immediately turned it into his stage. He was the heir apparent. The golden boy. Mr. Perfectly curated resume. Dad looked at him the way people look at new luxury cars, like he wanted to sign his name on the hood. On the other side sat my younger sister, Maya, bright smile, soft heart, naturally social, the kind of person people warm up to without even trying. She'd mastered being everyone's comfort blanket. Even Dad softened around her. That alone said enough. And then there was me. The middle kid. The one with Ivy League degrees and a career managing portfolios bigger than our family's entire empire. And yet somehow, still treated like I was the intern who showed up by accident. I'd always been Lucas, never my son Lucas. Just Lucas. Like a footnote nobody proofread. Dinner was halfway done when Dad stood up, wine glass lifted, voice smooth and rehearsed like he'd been practicing in the mirror all week. "I'm proud of my children," he announced, smiling at the crowd of admirers. He turned to Grant first, naturally, praising his leadership, his accomplishments, his steadfast loyalty to the family legacy. The works. People clapped like he'd just cured a disease. Then he turned to Maya, softening, complimenting her compassion and influence. Another round of applause. And then, his gaze slid in my direction. He paused, just long enough for the room to expect words. But instead of speaking, he lifted his glass and drank. That was it. Nothing. Not my name. Not even a generic compliment. Just air. It felt like someone vacuumed the oxygen straight out of my lungs. I stared at him, waiting for something, anything, that said I belonged at that table. But all I got was silence so loud it felt like an alarm going off in my head. My fingers tightened around my glass until it creaked. The envelope in my pocket dug deeper into my ribs, reminding me why I was there. Why I'd even come home. And for the first time, I understood something I'd been dodging my whole life. I wasn't ignored by mistake. I was ignored on purpose. I didn't leave the dinner table in some dramatic storm out like you see in movies. Nah, it was quieter than that, almost eerie. I stood up slow, smooth, like my body already knew it was done playing pretend before my mind caught up. Nobody even noticed. Not Grant. Not Maya. Definitely not Victor. I slipped out like a ghost leaving a party it was never invited to. Walking down the hallway, all I could hear was clinking glasses and polished laughter echoing behind me, like the soundtrack of a life I had never been part of. And that envelope, man, it felt like it was burning through my damn coat. 3 months earlier, I'd gotten a phone call from some stranger who sounded way too nervous to be lying and way too informed to be random. They said something about family discrepancies and possible paternal inconsistencies. Basically, a polite way of saying, something's off about your father, bro. At first, I brushed it off. But the seed was planted. And once that seed started growing, it was like every weird comment, every cold stare, every damn moment of my childhood suddenly lined up like dominoes. So I bought an ancestry test. Thought it was harmless. Thought maybe I'd learn I was, I don't know, 3% Scandinavian or something. But when the results came back, there it was, a single sentence that hit like a punch. No direct paternal match found. I didn't panic. Didn't cry. Didn't scream into a pillow. Instead, I just stared at the screen while the entire blueprint of my life rearranged itself inside my skull. After that, I did something I'm not proud of, but honestly, I'd do it again. I drove home one random afternoon, went to the upstairs bathroom, found one of my dad's brushes, and plucked out a few hairs like some undercover detective. Wrapped them in paper. Mailed them to a private lab in Manhattan. 3 days before his birthday, the results came in. Certified. Sealed. Sitting inside a thick envelope that felt heavier than any truth I'd ever held. I didn't open it. Not because I was scared, but because deep down, I already knew. Back in the hallway that night, I leaned against the wall, trying to breathe. Trying to get myself to walk back inside and pretend everything was normal. But how do you go back to normal when you're holding proof that your whole life might have been built on a lie? I looked down at the envelope. It wasn't paper. It was a detonator. I don't know what triggered it. Maybe the hallway lights, maybe the buzz of laughter behind me, but suddenly an old memory slammed into me like a truck. One I hadn't thought about in years. I was maybe 9, sitting on the living room rug with a busted-up model airplane I'd tried to fix for days. Glue everywhere, wings crooked, the thing looked like it barely survived war. Dad walked in, suit jacket still on, tie loosened but face hard as stone. He glanced at the plane, then at me. "You're wasting time," he said. "Fixing broken things teaches you nothing. Choose something worth your effort." Then he walked away. I never touched the plane again. Hell, I didn't touch much of anything creative after that. Back then, I thought he was teaching me discipline. No. Standing in that hallway with a DNA bomb in my pocket? It hit different. He wasn't teaching me discipline. He was telling me I wasn't worth fixing. The memories kept coming, pouring in like someone cracked open a dam. The time he took Grant to the Eagles game and told me I should stay home and help the housekeeper organize the pantry, like I was some unpaid intern. The time I won a statewide economics award and he said, "Those competitions are for kids who need validation, not real talent." The time I asked him why he never came to my piano recital and he replied, "Because noise isn't art unless it makes money." But the one that stuck, the one that curled into my chest like barbed wire, was something I overheard when I was 16. My mom was in the kitchen talking to my aunt. Their voices were low, but the house had a way of carrying whispers. "It's not Lucas's fault," Mom said softly. "It's the past catching up." The past. I didn't know what it meant back then. Now I did. Back in the present, I walked out of the house and into the cold air. The night felt too still, like the universe was holding its breath. I sat in my car, rested my forehead against the steering wheel, and tried to untangle the mess. Anger didn't come. Not yet. Just this strange, quiet ache. Then my phone buzzed. A text, from Maya. "Meet me in the garden. Please. It's urgent." My stomach dropped. That wasn't her usual style. She never sounded scared. She was the calm one, the peacekeeper, the one who held everyone else's mess together like emotional glue. Something was off. Way off. I headed back toward the garden, heart thudding harder with each step. The garden behind the Harrington estate always felt like a movie set. Perfect bushes, a fountain that never stopped, lights that made everything look soft and expensive. But that night, the air felt wrong. Too heavy. Too quiet. Like the garden was holding a secret and waiting for me to come take it. Maya stood near the fountain, arms wrapped tight around herself. She looked small in a way I'd never seen, like someone had unplugged all the brightness from her. And next to her, clutching a worn-looking envelope, was someone I didn't expect to see. My mother. She wasn't dressed for the party anymore. She had changed into a simple cardigan and jeans, hair pulled back like she'd been crying or pacing or both. She looked older than I remembered from dinner, like time had sprinted overnight. "Lucas," she whispered, voice trembling. "We need to talk. If there's one sentence guaranteed to spike your blood pressure, it's that one." I glanced at Maya, but she just nodded, urging me closer. Mom's hands shook as she handed me the envelope. Not the DNA envelope, the one she held was different. Old. Yellowed. Edges frayed like it had been hiding for decades. My chest tightened. "Before you open that," Mom said, "I need you to understand something. Nothing about you was ever a mistake." Strange thing is, hearing that didn't comfort me. It scared the hell out of me. Because when people start sentences like that, it means the next part is gonna rip open the floor beneath you. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. The handwriting wasn't my father's. It wasn't hers either. It was from someone named Reed Lawson, a name I had never heard in my life. I skimmed the first lines. "Angela, I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. If you're pregnant, I want to take responsibility." My hands went cold. Even if we can't be together, that boy deserves the truth. Please don't let him grow up thinking he's unwanted. My vision blurred for a second. My pulse hammered in my ears. The letter was dated around the time I would have been conceived. I looked at my mother, really looked at her. She wasn't just nervous. She was terrified. "I tried to tell your father," she whispered. "But he decided it was better if we pretended. He said it would ruin everything if the truth got out. Ruin everything. That was his fear. Not losing me. Not hurting me. Ruin. Reputation. Legacy." I felt something inside me crack, not a small crack, but a deep, seismic shift. Like the ground of my entire identity had just changed shape. But before I could even respond, Maya stepped forward. "There's more," she said. "And it's not just about Dad. Or the letter. You need to know what he planned to do. Tomorrow." My heart dropped. Maya wouldn't even look at me at first. She kept wringing her hands, pacing like she was trying to burn off the anxiety before it swallowed her whole. My mom stayed silent beside her, eyes red, cheeks streaked like she'd cried herself empty. "Maya," I said quietly, "just tell me." She stopped pacing, took a breath, and then the words fell out in pieces. "Dad, he's rewriting the succession announcement tomorrow. And you're not in it. At all." I blinked, stunned for a moment. "I've never been in it." She shook her head. "Not like this. He's making it official. In front of everyone. The company board, investors, the media, the whole damn city. He's announcing that the Harrington lineage is just Grant and me." My stomach twisted. "So basically he's erasing me publicly?" "Not basically," she said, voice cracking. "Literally." The air went razor-sharp. I felt it slice right through me. I knew I'd been an afterthought in private. I knew he didn't see me as a real son. But to wipe me from the family tree in front of hundreds of people? To make the world believe I never existed? That wasn't cold. That was calculated. Mom finally spoke, voice soft but shaking. "He told me earlier this week. He said, you were never aligned with the family brand anyway." Family brand. Like I was some off-season product they were discontinuing. "And," Maya added, swallowing hard, "he plans to announce a new family trust structure. It names only Grant as the heir to the business assets." I get a small share for optics. You get nothing. Not a penny. Not a legacy. Not a name. Just erased. I didn't even feel angry. Not at first. It was something colder. Numb. Like my emotions had pulled the fire alarm and evacuated the building. What else? I asked, because I could tell she wasn't done. Maya hesitated, then pulled something from her coat pocket, a slim folder. I wasn't supposed to see this, she whispered. But I did. Inside were legal drafts. Not final, but close. My name wasn't just missing. It had been crossed out. In black ink. Repeatedly. And next to it, in my father's handwriting, were the words. Irrelevant. No biological standing. My chest caved. I felt it physically, like air punching out of my lungs. Mom covered her mouth, ashamed. He knew, I whispered. He's known the whole damn time. No one spoke. The garden felt too quiet. Too still. Like even the night was bracing for what this meant. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Lucas, we need to talk before tomorrow. RL. Reed Lawson. My real father. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I just sat in the hotel armchair staring at my phone, replaying that message over and over until the words blurred. Lucas, we need to talk before tomorrow. RL. Reed Lawson. The man in the letter. The man my mother whispered about like he was a ghost no one was allowed to name. At dawn, I drove to the address he'd sent, a small cafe tucked behind an abandoned train depot on the edge of the city. The kind of place where the coffee is strong, the chairs wobble, and the regulars all look like they've lived 3 lives already. I stepped inside, heart pounding hard enough to shake something loose inside me. He was there. Reed Lawson. Gray hair, weather-beaten face, denim jacket that looked older than me. But his eyes looked like mine. Same shape. Same tired heaviness behind them. It hit me so hard I had to grab the back of a chair just to steady myself. He stood up slow, cautious, as if worried one wrong move might send me running. Lucas, he said softly. You look exactly how I imagined. I wanted to snap back. Say something sharp. Ask where the hell he'd been for 3 decades. But nothing came out. My throat felt glued shut. We sat. The waitress poured coffee neither of us touched. I didn't come to replace anything, Reed began. I didn't come to disrupt your life. I owed you the truth. I swallowed. How long have you known? Since day one, he said. Your mother told me. I wanted to be in your life, but she said Victor threatened to destroy her family if I ever showed up. She asked me to stay away until you were old enough to decide for yourself. I clenched my jaw. So you just waited? He nodded. Every birthday. Every year. I wrote letters I never sent because I didn't want to blow up your world unless you wanted it blown up. My eyes burned. I'm sorry, he said, voice cracking. Not for you. Never for you. But for the life those people made you believe you deserved. For the first time in years, someone apologized to me without conditions. Without excuses. Without trying to spin it into a life lesson. Lucas, he continued gently, your mother, she didn't choose him. She chose survival. And Victor, he didn't erase you because you weren't his. He erased you because deep down, he knew you were better. My breath caught. Then he slid an envelope across the table. Not the DNA one. A different one. An older one. Thicker. Your mother tried to give this to you once, Reed said. He took it from her. My pulse spiked. What's inside? I whispered. His expression darkened. Proof, he said. Proof that Victor planned something far worse than cutting you out of the family. I stared at the new envelope like it was ticking. My hands were sweating, heartbeat pounding in that weird, uneven rhythm your chest gets when your body knows something your brain hasn't caught up to yet. Go on, Reed said quietly. His voice was steady, but his eyes weren't. They had that haunted shimmer, like a man who'd been carrying a weight too long. I peeled the flap open. Inside were photocopied documents, some typed, some handwritten. They smelled old, almost metallic. The first page was a legal draft, stamped with the Harrington family attorney's letterhead. I knew that logo too well. It had haunted my childhood like a looming shadow. The title froze me. Proposed Guardianship Adjustment, Child, L. Harrington. Guardianship Adjustment? What is this? I asked. Reed exhaled. Keep reading, son. It hit weird hearing him call me that. Not bad. Just unfamiliar, like a word I wasn't used to wearing. The document laid it out in icy lawyer language. When I was 4 years old, Victor had tried to remove my mother's custodial rights, quietly, behind her back. He claimed she was emotionally unstable and unfit to make decisions independently. The plan: full guardianship to Victor, control of my education, control of my medical decisions, control of me. My stomach twisted. Why would he do this? Reed's jaw tightened. Because he suspected you weren't his. And he wanted leverage. If he couldn't erase you outright, he'd control every part of you. I flipped the page. The next one was worse. A handwritten note. Victor's handwriting. Sharp. Cold. If Angela refuses to cooperate, alternative placement options will be pursued. Alternative placement. Placement. Like I was furniture. My hands shook. My voice came out barely a whisper. He tried to take me away from her. Reed nodded slowly. Your mother fought him. Hard. She threatened to expose everything. Your real paternity, the affair, all of it. That was the only reason he backed off. I stared down at the pages as a new kind of rage, quiet, deep, bone deep, spread through me. For years I thought Victor's coldness was personal. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I didn't fit. Maybe I disappointed him. But no. This man wasn't distant. He was dangerous. He wanted control, Reed said. Not a son. My breath hitched. Why don't I remember any of this? You weren't meant to, he said. Your mother hid it so you wouldn't grow up afraid. My throat tightened. Why now? Why tell me this the day before his big announcement? Reed leaned in, voice low. Because he's not done, Lucas. He's planning something at that party. Something he's been setting up for years. My blood went cold. What is he planning? Reed hesitated, then said the words that made my whole body go numb. He's not just erasing you from the family. He's erasing you from the company and framing you in the process. I felt my whole body freeze, like someone had hit pause on my bloodstream. Framing me, I repeated. For what? Reed didn't answer right away. He glanced around the cafe first, checking the corners, checking the door, checking the windows like we were in a spy movie instead of a run-down breakfast joint with wobbly tables. That only made my pulse go berserk. Finally, he slid a second set of papers toward me, this time in a plain white folder with no letterhead. When I opened it, the world tilted. Financial spreadsheets. Email printouts. Transaction trails. All pointing to one name. Lucas Harrington. Except I didn't recognize a damn thing. These are forged, Reed said quietly. Your father's people created a paper trail making it look like you've been siphoning money out of the Harrington trust accounts. I stared at the numbers. Hundreds of thousands of dollars moved into some offshore account tied to my name, my email, my signature. But I never. I know, Reed cut in gently. I know you didn't. But in a few hours, he's going to announce that the company conducted an internal audit and discovered you've been mismanaging funds. My head spun. And guess what? Reed added. It gets worse. How the hell does it get worse? I snapped. He pointed at one of the pages, a fake email supposedly sent by me to a private broker. The tone, the writing style, the formatting, all wrong. But convincing enough for a room full of rich investors to swallow. Victor's plan, Reed said, is to paint you as unstable and financially reckless, so when he announces your removal tomorrow, no one questions it. No one asks why you were never in the succession plan. No one questions the paternity. They'll just assume you were the screw-up. That's psychotic, I whispered. That's Victor, Reed replied. My hands balled into fists. I wasn't just being erased. I was being discredited. Humiliated. Thrown under the bus in front of everyone who mattered in that world. Why? I asked, voice cracking despite myself. Why go this far? Reed leaned back, eyes heavy. Because if the truth about your paternity ever got out, it wouldn't just ruin him emotionally, it would ruin his empire. Investors would question legacy continuity. Shareholders would panic. Rivals would tear him apart. He shook his head. Erasing you is his insurance policy. I sat there, stunned, numb, feeling like the floor had been pulled from under me. He's going to destroy your name tomorrow, Reed said. Unless you do something first. I swallowed hard. Like what? He slid me a small flash drive. Like exposing him. My breath hitched. I can't, I whispered. If I do, the family will. Reed cut me off. Lucas, the family already chose a side. And it wasn't yours. The truth hit like a sucker punch. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time, from Maya. Lucas, you need to get back. Something's happened. My heart dropped into my shoes. I drove back to the estate faster than I should have. Heart thudding, mind spinning, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles looked bleached. Maya's text kept flashing in my head. You need to get back. No. Something's happened. Damn near every worst-case scenario ran through my brain like a slideshow on fast-forward. When I pulled up to the house, the vibe was off. Wrong. The lights were on, but the place felt hollow. Like the building itself was stressed. I stepped inside and immediately heard muffled voices coming from Dad's office. Tense, sharp, frantic. I recognized Grant's voice first. Then Maya's. Then my stomach twisted. My mother's. I walked toward the sound, but Maya met me halfway, grabbing my arm like she was afraid I'd vanish if she let go. You need to breathe, she whispered. My chest tightened. Tell me what happened. She hesitated. That alone scared me. Dad collapsed, she said finally. In his office. A half hour ago. I blinked. Collapsed. As in? They think it was a heart episode, she said. He's breathing, he's conscious, but it wasn't small. The paramedics already took him to University Hospital. I swallowed hard, but there was no emotion. Not the kind I expected. No panic. No grief. Just shock mixed with a weird, guilty numbness. What caused it? I asked. Maya looked around the hallway, making sure no one else was listening. Then she leaned in and whispered. He was shredding files. My blood iced. What files? I demanded. She pulled something out from under her sweater, a torn page, charred on the edge like she'd yanked it from a shredder mid-burn. I didn't recognize the page at first. Legal jargon. Stamped in red. Then I saw it. My name. Written across the top. Crossed out. Underlined. Twice. And next to it, in my father's handwriting. Finalize removal tomorrow. I felt the ground shift under my feet. He was destroying everything connected to you, Maya whispered. Emails, drafts, notes, like he wanted to wipe any trace of what he was planning. My throat tightened. So he knew the walls were closing in. Lucas, she said, eyes burning with fear, I don't think his collapse was random. Something scared him. Something he saw or learned tonight. I closed my eyes, the weight of Reed's envelope suddenly 10 times heavier in my pocket. What about Grant? I asked. Maya's expression changed, something between guilt and dread. He's trying to lock down the company documents before anyone outside the family gets involved. And Mom? I asked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. She said, It's time you see what she's been hiding. Before I could react, she pressed a small silver key into my hand. What's this? I asked. Maya swallowed. Dad's private vault, she said. Mom says the truth is in there. All of it. The hallway felt colder. The house seemed to breathe around us. Lucas, Maya added, voice barely audible, whatever's inside that vault, it's going to change everything you think you know about him. And about us. The vault key felt heavier than any metal I'd ever held. Not because of the weight. Hell, it probably weighed less than a house key, but because of what it represented. 30-plus years of silence. 30-plus years of questions no one would answer. 30-plus years of feeling like a shadow in my own damn family. I followed Maya through the hallway toward the back of the house. She didn't talk, didn't explain, didn't try to soften anything. She just walked fast, shoulders tense, like she was bracing herself for impact. The vault was hidden behind one of those old portrait panels, the kind rich families love to pretend is historic, when really it's just hiding secrets. She pushed the frame aside, revealing a steel door about the size of a walk-in closet. "Dad kept everything he didn't want anyone to see and hear," she whispered. I slid the key in, turned it, and heard a click that felt way too final. Inside, the room was colder than the rest of the house, almost clinical. Filing cabinets lined the walls, stacks of boxes labeled with dates, scribbled notes, and cryptic phrases only Victor would understand. The air smelled like dust, ink, and old, bad decisions. Maya stayed by the door, almost afraid to cross the threshold. "I'll let you look," she said. "Mom said you need to see it alone." I stepped inside. The first thing I opened was a cabinet labeled LH. My initials. Inside were documents, evaluations from private schools, notes from therapists I don't even remember visiting, printed emails between my parents arguing about me in coded language. The one that hit hardest was a typed letter from Victor to a family consultant. "Lucas is resistant to molding. His temperament makes him unsuitable for future succession. Recommend distance to prevent disruption of primary heirs." Unsuitable. Like I was livestock. But that wasn't the worst part. In the back of the cabinet, taped inside a folder, was a photograph. Me. Barely 2 years old. Sleeping in my mother's arms. A moment that should have been tender. Except someone, Victor, had drawn a faint X over my face. Not enough to be obvious. Just enough to be intentional. My lungs seized. I moved to another drawer labeled Paternity, Confidential. Inside were the results from a test he'd done when I was still a baby, one he never told my mother about. A test that proved I wasn't his. Not a suspicion. Not a rumor. Proof. And he'd kept it. 4 decades. Used it. Weaponized it. My hands shook as I reached the bottom shelf and found a smaller locked chest. I pried it open with a flat metal tool. Inside was the third secret Reed warned me about. A folder labeled Emergency Strategy, if Lucas becomes a liability. My vision blurred as I flipped through the pages. He had plans, backup plans, on how to destroy my career, my name, even my credibility in court. He'd mapped out every angle. Like he'd spent years preparing to erase me completely. Behind me, Maya whispered, voice trembling. "What did you find?" I swallowed hard. "Proof he never wanted me alive," I said. And as those words left my mouth, my phone buzzed again. A hospital number. The caller ID showed University Hospital. My chest tightened, not out of fear for Victor, but because I knew whatever was coming next would either close this chapter or blow it wide open. I answered. "This is Lucas," I said, voice rough. The doctor on the line sounded calm, almost too calm. "Your father is stable," he began. "But there's something you need to know. He's asking for you." Repeatedly. I felt Maya stiffen next to me. "For me?" I asked. "Are you sure he didn't say Grant?" "No," the doctor said. "He's very clear. He wants to see you. Alone." The word alone hit like a punch. After everything he'd done, the lies, the erasure, the setup, the decades of coldness, now he wanted me? Maya touched my arm. "You don't have to go." "I know," I said quietly. "But I'm going." Because closure isn't something people hand you. You have to take it. The hospital room was dim, machines humming softly, and Victor, the man who'd towered over every part of my childhood, suddenly looked small. Mortal. Just a man, not a myth I'd spent my whole life trying to impress. He looked at me, eyes dull but aware. For the first time ever, his gaze didn't feel like judgment. It felt like recognition. "Lucas," he rasped. "Come here." I stood at the foot of his bed, not moving any closer. He took a shaky breath. I know what you found. Good. Let him know. You don't get to pretend anymore, I said. I saw the vault. The letters. The plans. He closed his eyes, the guilt flashing across his face like lightning. I did what I thought. Protected the family. No, I said sharply. You protected your story. Not the family. And definitely not me. He didn't argue. Didn't fight. And maybe that was the first honest thing he ever did. After a long moment, he said something I wasn't expecting. I should have let you go. For a second, I couldn't breathe. What does that mean? He struggled to speak. Your mother wanted to leave. When you were 5. With you. I stopped her. I forced her to stay. Because I didn't want the scandal. Because I didn't want the world to know you weren't mine. He paused, wincing. Then added, but you were the only one in this house who ever challenged me. And that terrified me more than the truth. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't love. But it was a confession. I stepped closer, not out of affection, but out of finality. You were afraid of me, I said softly. Not because of who I was, but because of who I wasn't. He closed his eyes. Lucas, I'm sorry. A single tear slid from the corner of his eye. The first and only one I'd ever seen. I nodded. Not forgiving. Not forgetting. Just releasing. I'm done carrying this, I said. All of it. You don't own my story anymore. I walked out. Didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I legally changed my name. Lucas Lawson. I met Reed again, this time not as a stranger, but as a beginning. Maya stays in my life. Grant, maybe someday. My mom, slowly healing. And me. I'm finally living a life that isn't an apology. If you've ever felt unseen, erased, unwanted, listen close. Your worth isn't borrowed. It's not inherited. It's not stamped on by someone else's last name. Your story is yours. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the version of yourself that someone else tried to write.